Yes! And slip you some boogie we will. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, coming at you live from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere, here once again to give you yet another conversational dose of conversational boogie. I didn't say that. I've never messed up my intro. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, this is Shift Happens. Did I fix it? Okay, we are on the Fringe FM. Fantastic. So I can do that now. Boom. Right on time. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Jess Rogie for swinging us on to the Fringe FM at the last minute. Thank you so much, Jess. We appreciate you. Your work does not go unnoticed, my friend. In fact, I'm not sure if me and JP or just me or both. I think we're going to be on Jess Rogie's show next Thursday. We just figured out. So that'll be fun. What do you think, JP? You want to hop on for that one?
I will be there. I haven't heard anything about it, though, so make sure. I guess we'll follow up with that. But I'll be there one way or another.
Yeah, basically what we're going to do is we're going to sort of, like the last time we were on her show, we had that extraordinary conversation about very positive spiritual DMT experiences. And she wants to do that conversation on the show. Good. So, yeah, I'm going to go through that whole thing again. And
that's
all
mostly
that.
you. I haven't had that sort of trip, but it sounds amazing. I'm with Jess. Yeah, let's do that. To hear more about it. Right
on. All right, folks, welcome to the show. This is Shift Happens. Before we begin, do follow us on all the stuff, which you can just go to shifthappensradio.com. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff is over there. But I will tell you, we're mostly active on Twitter. You can follow the show if you're just listening and you're too lazy to click over. I feel you. Don't worry, I am the laziest person I know. And our Twitter hashtag, or Twitter handle rather, is at ShiftHappensPod. Again, that's at ShiftHappensPod. You can follow me personally on Twitter at GGRabbit1. And then where can they follow you? Our trusty co-host, JP.
I am almost afraid to say it. I've had all kinds of website problems, but propertyofmars.com. Yeah, it's still... I'm getting it back up, but yeah, it's going to be a pretty great site once I got everything rolling. Right on, good deal. Yeah, I'm sure it will be. And yeah, sorry we had a late start, folks. We had to hold out. Was it me or was that music intro just way longer than usual? I don't know. Yeah, I played it. I played it twice because we couldn't connect to the Fringe FM. So I didn't want to start until the Fringe FM was there. I was like, okay, all right. Yeah, because most people, although the OGs hang out in Spreaker in the chat room, most people listen through the Fringe FM. You know, whether it's TalkStream Live or TuneIn or the Fringe FM itself, any of the Fringe FM related channels on different part. You know, so we wanted to wait for everybody else. Didn't want to leave them hanging. You know, this is it's a party bus, man. Can't leave anybody behind. How are you, GG? How's everything going with you? Just awful. Just terrible. That's what I was going for. Hey, you should be interested to know that the deep fake Bruce Willis might be the next Hollywood star. Man, they actually sold the rights to his deep fake image, and that they're going to make movies and all kinds of stuff out of. So he doesn't even have to do anything anymore. He just... Except collect check. Yeah. And that's amazing. By the way, I'm doing amazing, folks. I'm just kidding. I heard a really interesting deepfake story. Did you hear about this? Some super tech dude did a deepfake pretending to be an actor and convinced... I don't even remember enough of the story to repeat it. But
like actually convinced them that they were going to win a trip to come hang out with them at some celebrity thing, and even got on a Skype call using deepfake to further convince them, like, oh, it's actually the dude. Yeah, I talked to him on Skype, and totally got him. And somehow or another made a lot of money off of it. I think they caught him, though, which is why this is a story. But yeah, dude, deepfake. Our world is going into some crazy places, and deepfake is going to be responsible for about 40% of those different directions that it's going. If you ask me.
Pretty amazing, It is amazing. And funding movies is such a big deal. It's such a huge part of the whole thing. And I could just see it now, guarantees, invest in my movie. I've got Tom Cruise and, George Clooney. I got all the big names. And, people will invest in that and then realize, like, oh, wait, I invested in the doppelganger, the digital version of that character, not the real deal. So it should be interesting to see where it goes. I don't know. Can't possibly be as good as the originals.
Yeah, but man, it's especially when it comes to, just mix deep fake with the cancel culture. Bam, careers are going to be ruined left, right, left, and center before people figure. Surely, eventually, there will be ways to figure out if things are deep faked or not, I would imagine. But at first, that's not going to be there. You're just going to have to trust the source. I mean, you could be watching a video of Obama making a speech, and he didn't say a single word of it. He wasn't even there. And, not to get political here, but that's a big problem. It's amazing technology that can be used in a lot of, like all technologies. Can be used positively, can be used negatively. And I think we're going to see both. And these are just crazy times we're living in. And folks, if you don't know I would imagine our audience knows what deepfake is by now, but if you don't, holy Moses, go look up some deepfake technology. That is craziness. All right, so anyway, let's see. Quick announcement. I think we're going to have... we're going to do... well, first of all, we're doing Midnight Blend tomorrow night over at the Beyond the Strange Twitch channel. Keep up with us on Twitter at Shift Happens Pod for the links for that. We might be having the return of Wolfman Mike. We found him.
What?
Yeah, Eric got a hold of him. And he's Marijuana Mama is no longer in the picture. So that's a thing. And apparently Eric said that not to give too many spoilers, but that we're going to be blown away by some of the new information that Wolfman has after being on hiatus for a good, couple of years now for the most part. So
I talked to Wolfman about 2 weeks ago, and it's out there.
Oh, well, I would expect nothing less. So he's either going to join us tomorrow night in the Midnight Blend, or we are going to do a B-side episode. Regardless, conversation between Shift Happens and Monster Castle Paranormal will happen, or whatever he calls it now. And so that's going to be fun. And Eric sent me some stuff too. That was pretty mind blowing. That I'm sure. He gets his credit as our roaming reporter. So follow him at Eric Awakening Man. I think it's just at Awakening Man on Twitter. He's always posting really good information and interviews and stuff. But with all of that nonsense aside, let's go ahead and get to tonight's guest, who comes. We were introduced by our mutual friend, Mr. Brent Boatman, who we had on the show a few weeks ago, and that was a fantastic show, I must say. And so that's how we met. And our guest tonight is Dr. Lisa Thompson, best-selling author, speaker, Galactic ambassador, and channeler, and intuitive transformational coach. She also has a degree in she's an evolutionary biologist, which is extremely interesting when combined with being a Galactic ambassador. Very fascinating stuff, and we're going to get into all this tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Dr. Lisa Thompson. How are you, Lisa?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And she's actually coming out there from all the way on that little island called Hawaii. Yeah.
Yeah, the big island of Hawaii. The one that's named Hawaii.
The biggest little island out there, yeah. And, man, I've always wanted to go there. It's nice that you've, it really seems like you've got your battleship rocking and rolling and cruising, and you've got your whole boogie going on. You do all different sorts of past life regression coaching and various different coaching for various aspects of this crazy world that we dive into, and you've been able to make a whole voyage out of all this passion that you have. And so it's very cool to see, especially when that passion takes you to somewhere as cool as Hawaii and you can make it work. That's fantastic. Great.
Yeah, I can thank COVID for that.
Okay, I'm sure there's a story there. Absolutely.
Right, you did say about 3 years ago. So you took off. I mean, I've heard so many stories about Hawaii and how COVID affected Hawaii and everything. So you took off and went there, or is there a story there?
There is. So originally my family and I were living in Olympia, Washington, and that's where I grew up most of my life. And he had a very normal kind of desk job being a mortgage broker. And when COVID hit, all his clients went virtual. My business was already online, so I could live anywhere in the world. And my daughter, who was a teenager, we never thought she would want to move, but she's like, I don't want to live here anymore. I want to move. And she first proposed California, and I was like, I don't want to live in California. I'd moved to Hawaii, and my husband was like, I moved to Hawaii, and 6 months later, we moved to Hawaii.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah.
And I want to go to Hawaii. I also want to go to Guam. It's like Hawaii, but without all the tourists. Apparently, I mean, you would think there'd be some tourists out there, but apparently there's a couple of secret spots out there in Guam where it's you get that experience out there.
Far less known.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's an American spot. People just don't take advantage of the fact that we can just go there.
Now tourism picked up, I heard, big time in Hawaii. Did it affect? Was that crazy for you? Did you feel like real busy?
So it definitely was a lot busier, but a different kind of tourist was coming to the island than used to come pre-COVID. We used to have people with a lot more money, but this time, a lot more budget travelers were coming. And so they weren't necessarily spending the kind of money that the original tourists were doing pre-COVID. And so it was only when Japan opened their borders back up that we got the money infiltrating back into the economy here. And besides the many things that you mentioned that I do, I actually do run a tour business here. So tourists are important to me. I do Big Island UFO tours, which is a night sky watch using advanced Gen 3 military night vision goggles.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, we've got a buddy who does this similar thing, but in Sedona, Arizona. And it's amazing once you use that sort of equipment. I mean, there's a highway system up there. There is some shift going on up there, and this is the typical conversation. Have you ever seen a UFO? And somebody answers no. So, okay, when's the last time you looked up? Just never. It's like, well, okay, that's why. If you, even without that equipment, if you just bust out a lawn chair, just lay back, have a smoke, or whatever it is you do, drink your cup of wine, or eat some pudding, whatever it is, and just lay back and just look up. Give it like 2 or 3 hours. You will see stuff. Unless like you're in like New York City or something. You definitely got to have some less light pollution. But yeah.
Take your time with it.
And then you add the military grade night vision goggles. And and people say all the time, like, oh, that was a bug. That was like, no. When you use those things, it becomes very evident very quickly what's a bug, what's in the distance, what's in the foreground, what's in the background, and then what's way the hell up there. It's pretty obvious. And,
yes. Well, and one of the really nice things is that our traditional known flying objects in the sky, like airplanes, helicopters, satellites, even space junk, they'll have very predictable behavior. And so me as a scientist, I like teaching our clients about that first and foremost, because not everything is a spaceship that's flying around. So when they know what that very predictable behavior is, then when we're looking through the goggles, then they can actually understand how much amazing other activity there really is. And there is a highway, like you just said.
Yeah.
Truly.
And that is definitely what you just said, the UFO Optics 101. It should be a course that everybody takes before studying the sky, because I know so many people that are like very into the UFO topic, and they believe UFOs and aliens are real and everything. But they, I can't tell you how many times they just point something out. Like, look, what is that? It's a bright light. Like, yeah, but it's blinking regularly. Like, and it's like, dude, it's flashing its light back at me when I flash it. It's like, yeah, because you're flashing it at its regular rate of flash. And then, of course, satellites. We all know what satellites look like. I feel like that's probably the number one. You would think that'd be the number one, like, everybody gets that, but a lot of people see a satellite. It does look interesting. It's a star, essentially, that's moving. And so people that aren't aware might think that is some sort of UFO. But it is nice to explain to people, like, the regular occurrences of identifiable objects. And once you got that out of the way, then you know what to look for, and it becomes that much obvious what you're seeing up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also use satellite tracking apps and other things like that just to make sure, that what we're looking at, because a lot of the spacecraft that we are actually seeing through the goggles, they start out looking like glowing, moving objects like a satellite would. But then if you keep watching it, then it will do something that a satellite shouldn't do, like disappear in the middle of the sky right after sunset, or slow down, or get massively brighter and massively dimmer, or do irregular blinking patterns like a plane wouldn't do.
Yeah. I mean, I've had an experience with two other people one time. One of which, we would sit outside the summer of 2012. We would sit out at my house in the backyard, lawn chairs. My friend would have a guitar, made a whole little ritual out of it, and we would just stare at UFOs for hours. And there was one time where, and after you do that for several nights in a row, every single week for multiple weeks and months, you start to know where the stars are, right? And you get familiar with the stars. And all of a sudden, we're both like, I don't remember that star being there. It's like, yeah, neither do I. Like, are you sure? And we're like trying to look it up, and it's just chilling. It's not moving. And then about an hour later, all of a sudden, we're all looking up, and the star takes off. Like, boom! See, I told you that wasn't a star. Like, we kind of knew it. But yeah, UFO tours, people, get there while you can. And you're in fact, just for anybody that is, so you do most of those tours in Hawaii, I imagine.
Yeah, we do here on the Big Island, actually right where we live in Waikoloa Village, which is north of Kona, north of the airport. Because we're essentially in the desert, kind of like Sedona. We've got clear skies, and we have dark sky mandates on our light pollution, because Mauna Kea Observatory is right above us.
Oh,
so
nice.
It's just like going to Sedona. And we have the energy of this island is very similar, actually even more high energy than Sedona is with the vortexes.
Oh, and interesting. Okay, because there is
very thin here.
Okay, well that's good. I didn't really know. I don't know that many people from Hawaii, but I've spent a lot of time in Sedona, and I know several friends that live out there, including the one who does the UFO tours there. And when you go to places like that, Joshua Tree is another one for me as well. But Sedona especially, where you show up, you feel something. There is a different frequency happening at that place, and you can literally feel it,
Yeah.
And there is, with the intersections of magnetic ley lines and what have you, there must be something to that. Not to mention all the quartz crystal that's under the ground there. So I'm guessing there's some of that, something similar to that going on over in your desertous regions.
Yes, we definitely have that, and we also have a suspected underwater alien base off the southern part of the state. So there are massive amounts of sightings of people seeing transmedium craft coming in and out of the water on all sides of our island, but on the other islands as well.
Very interesting. Yeah, okay. And we might have to get more into that. But for now, we do have to run to our first commercial break. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. And when we come back, we will jump back right.
I want to hear about some sightings. I don't know about you all.
Yeah, oh, we're going there. We're going there for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM.
As we explore the mysteries of the...
Come on, button. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, G2, along with our co-host, JP. And we will be back here in just a few short commercially minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Listen. As we explore the mysteries of the universe, the unknown, high strangeness, consciousness, and our human potential, Lighting the Void is an eclectic program that strives to ignite the late night with stimulating conversations. Join us on the Fringe FM.
Yohoy there, it's Gigi from Shift Happens, and you're listening to the one and only Fringe FM. Well, at least I'd imagine so. I'm not sure how else, you'd be hearing this.
Musicians experience a lot of frustration with music marketing and promotion. They have no idea how to get their music heard, and they're spending hours sending emails, making phone calls, and hitting up their friends to promote them. With our industry-powered digital marketing platform, we can set up your media plan in minutes. Our team will automatically distribute your music across all the best channels, so you can focus on actually making the music. Submit your music today on our website at mymusicpromoter.com. That's mymusicpromoter.com.
My name is Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Are you avoiding the media? I don't blame you. Hi, I'm Jess Rogie, and it's my job to sift through the BS to find you the best in Fringe news. Listen to the Rogie Report news here on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. The truth is out there, and so are we.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation. Thousands of people are having paranormal experiences with ghosts, demons, shadow people, dogmen, Bigfoot, and more. Their stories need to be told, and they are being told. Dark Waters, the renowned storyteller, invites you to join at IamDarkWaters.com. For just a few dollars a month, you can listen to some of the most hair-raising and compelling stories on the planet. You'll have access to real-life stories told by Dark Waters, thousands of hours of content. Their encounters are being told, and told by the best, at IamDarkWaters.com. Listen to stories like the Rabbit Man, the Dogman encounter in Silas, Alabama, the Man with No Face, the Other Woman, A Day Ahead of the Devil, Dogman Murder in Hurricane Ida, even a story of someone trying to kill a dogman. Louisiana water demon stories. Sign up today and become a member at IamDarkWaters.com. That's IamDarkWaters.com.
I came to LA to make rock and roll. Along the way I had to sell my soul. I made some good friends that make me say I really want to be in LA. I took the 10 to get to Beverly, laid some rock and tape, roll at 180. Alan and Natasha always make me say I really want to be in LA.
And we are back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. We are here tonight. Yeah, he's here. He's here, ladies and gentlemen. And Brad, Elfman mentioned earlier, he misses Brad. So do we. Just talking to him earlier today. Well, he'll be making more appearances. That's our associate producer, folks. He'll be making more appearances soon enough. And then, of course, Bob Tuscan in the chat room, as always, asking, is this live? And guess what, my friend? The answer is the same as it always is. Yes. We are live, my friend. My friend Bob Tuscan. We are live. And speaking of live, we do have our roaming reporter just Skyped in. I know he's got some stuff to add, or ask, rather. But before we do, see, that's why we got to switch from Skype. Is that
wasn't me?
Boom, blam, boom, blam, boom, blam. Do you need? Is that necessary? Even when you turn it off, apparently it is. Fantastic. But so real quick before we get back into the business, for those of you just now catching the show for the first time, or you've just been too lazy to do it before, we do have a couple of chat rooms here, which are a great way for you to hang out with the rest of the audience and get your questions in for us or the guest. And there are two ways to do it. The OG chat room, just go to shifthappensradio.com, look for the episode player in the middle of the homepage, and underneath the current live episode, there's a little text message icon. Click that, and then bam, make a name for yourself, and then bam, you're right there into the chat room. And the other chat room is over at the Fringe FM Discord. Just go to www.fringe.fm/chat, and you'll get an automatic invite into the Discord server. Now, folks, beware, if you are not tech savvy and you've never heard of Discord before, I would probably not even try it. It's a steep learning curve. You're not going to know where to go, what's going on. So go into Spreaker first, which is the first method, over at shifthappensradio.com, and maybe there somebody can answer your questions how to get into Discord, if you really want to go over there. But either way, I've got Discord to my right, Spreaker to my left. I can see what's going on, and also for the sake of this, if you do have a question specifically for the guest that like you really want us to answer, put it in all caps so that it sticks out, because sometimes the chat room flies by and we don't want to miss any of your questions. So there we go. Now, real quick before we move forward, let's get our roaming reporter on here, Eric Johnson, and see what he's got for us. What's up, Eric, Awakening Man? You're muted, by the way.
You can unmute.
You can unmute. That is a thing you could do that would help this moment. All right, we will get back to Eric when Eric is ready to get back to us. Yeah, you know, full honesty, he wanted to co-host tonight. I was like, well, you know, just call in if you got something. So he got exclusive rights to Skype in. So, but we'll get back to him once he unmutes. So, one question I do like to ask. It looks like he's going to reconnect, which means we're going to get another boom, boom, boom.
Can you hear me?
There we go. There we go. Hey, what's up, Eric?
Hey, I don't know what the hell's going on. No, I just want to listen. I met Brent through Jeff Brunell. We talked. I interviewed him for like an hour. Got to converse with him about his experiences, and then I see that Dr. Lisa's on here, so I'm very curious. I just want to listen, and then if I have any good questions, I'll chime in.
Perfect. Sounds good. So let's get on with the boogie. So Lisa, what did, because you do have, you're quite a multifaceted professional. You do coaching in different aspects of life on top of the Galactic Ambassador and channeling. Which came, out of all the things you do now, which one came first? Did you see a UFO first, and that's kind of what got you going? Or were you into spirituality and well-being, and that's what got you going, and then you got into the UFO stuff? How did this go down?
It was same time, spiritual journey, and I've been an experiencer my entire life, but I grew up in a little bit of a different kind of household. My mother was an astrologer as I was growing up, so I was in the metaphysical world. All her friends were psychics, witches, tarot card readers, and astrologers. So I didn't have a standard, go to church kind of upbringing. And then when I was 13, she moved me from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to Washington State to go to the Ramtha School of Enlightenment, which is a school that is taught by a channeled entity, an ascended master from the time of Lemuria. And so being part of that school, we were learning things. This is back in the 80s. So we were learning things like creating your reality. This is before law of attraction became like a really big thing. And we were learning about brain physiology and epigenetics and higher dimensional beings. So I was learning this, as a kid. And my first conscious memory of being taken onto a spacecraft was when I was 15. In the year 1988, and it was a beautiful experience, and I got to remember that experience and have it validated actually by a very high former government official that knew about the different alien races that come here to Earth and interact with our government.
All right, so it is my duty as a host to ask. Feel free to not be able to answer the question. Who is this governmental individual?
So he, I don't know his name now because it's been so long. And so what happened was I had this experience where I was taken, but for a long time, I thought it was just a dream. And then I got some information for myself that it wasn't a dream. And I can go into the details of that story if you want in a moment. But
yes,
I knew that once I realized that it wasn't a dream, I could tell my mom because I knew she would believe me. And so our school happened to be pretty high profile in the 80s. We were learning things like telepathy and remote viewing and other things of that nature that the CIA and the government were really interested in. And they actually had infiltrated the school to find out what we were learning and maybe to make sure it wasn't dangerous, because the school was considered to be a cult, and still fits some of that criteria, being a cult. And so some of these people from the CIA and government, they ended up actually leaving their jobs and becoming full-time students at the school, essentially. And so the guy that my mom introduced me to, she knew about his former ranking in the government. And again, it's been so long. It wasn't important to me when I was 16, when I met him, to remember his name. What was important was that I shared my story. And even though he didn't know the specific race that I had been with, he did say, he was like, you had a real experience. I just want to validate that for you. So as a teenager, that was huge. And I think I was able to retain that memory and get that validation to be a seed planted for the work that I do today as a Galactic ambassador.
Okay, real quick, let's break a couple of things down. So now, what is the name of this school again out there in Washington?
Yeah, it's called the Ramtha School of Enlightenment.
Okay.
So Ramtha is the entity that's channeled through a lady named J.Z. Knight.
Definitely rings a bell, yes.
Yeah, and Shirley MacLaine was the first famous person that attended the school, and then Linda Evans after that, and then Salma Hayek after that.
This is in Yelm, Washington, correct?
Correct, yes.
And Shirley MacLaine.
I've been to the Ramtha school, and yeah, so I'm so far I'm agreeing with everything the young lady's saying. So I just want to say that.
All right,
perfect.
and
we moved to Yelm in 1986. So
a magical place, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and JP, did you have something there, real quick? It looked like.
I was just that's kind of interesting too with the Shirley MacLaine connection, and she was she's been pretty outspoken with the UFOs, and there was a smear campaign on her, and she persevered and got her word through.
Yeah. And so I've got to ask about this around the school.
Okay.
Is there, whether it just be conjecture or rumor, are there stories out there, whether it false or true, are there rumors of that place, establishment, being connected in any sort of way with the CIA or the Pentagon?
Not directly, only what I know just from the 80s being there. And then I left the school for about 12 years and came back when I was 28 and was there for about 5 more years.
Oh, wow.
So from my understanding, Jay-Z has nothing to do with the CIA. If you met Jay-Z as a person, like as a personality, very different than Ramtha, very different. But the school, I do know some of the former CIA people. I had very good friends in the school that were my age, that their parents used to work for the CIA before they had come to the school. And there's a student named CIA Ron.
Okay, so the general fluff is there around, CIA, I guess the CIA at the very least would be aware of what's going on over there.
Can I help out? Can I interject real quick? I'm sorry to be rude.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
This is my personal experience, and this is to kind of, there's no doubt about it that anytime we're having a conversation like Lisa's sharing right now, where there's information being shared that's outside the realm of CNN and Fox, let's just say, for example, I guarantee you the CIA, not only do they know about it, they're involved in their, and they're positioned so that in other words, there's somebody in the CIA listening to this conversation right now. I'd be willing to bet money on it.
Yeah.
So and as a result of that, they are masters at taking the narrative and reorchestrating the facts so that it keeps the American public and whoever else might be interested in a position of neutrality, of understanding, so that they're they become either skeptical or unsure. But then there's always that select amount of people that have had direct experience, like maybe Lisa in this case, who can just put all that aside and know that what they're experiencing is real. And I'm going to shut up now because I get this vibe that Lisa's telling the truth. That's my vibe I'm feeling right now.
Thank you, Eric. Yes. I have no reason not to tell the truth at all. I don't have any reason to hide anything about any of my experiences. And actually, the book that I just wrote about this topic of UFOs and aliens, I do share a little bit about that story of being part of the Ramtha School and how it actually did kind of open me up to knowing that there's way more out there in the universe than what mainstream world tells us that there is, or that religions tell us that there is, especially like the Christian kind of church. So, I've had my experiences now the metaphysical experiences I've had and the interactions with the extraterrestrials and higher dimensional beings. My science background was at conflict with that because we don't have the science at this moment to fully understand this phenomena, just like with the cryptozoology stuff. And so I've always been into the cryptids. So as an evolutionary biologist, I am a zoologist and marine biologist, and I love animals. One of the things that we did was discover new species and figure out what species are which, and look at the evolutionary relationships of those species. And so there's just so much that science still is in this tiny little box, and I couldn't stay in the mainstream academia because when I would share my stories, people in my all my scientist friends thought I was crazy. And so I just had to keep my mouth shut for a long time to be taken seriously, to be credible in my field. And then the other businesses that I had after leaving academia, mainstream businesses where I couldn't really speak out about this. So really wasn't until I moved to Hawaii and let go of like the real world, so to speak, that I was able to take off all the masks and be fully my authentic self. And I have nothing to hide.
You mean the fake real world, right?
Right. Yes, exactly.
I'm liking you, Lisa. I'm liking you a lot. I'm glad I'm glad that Gigi has you on the show. I'm looking forward to listening to you. But I want to say that I'm feeling what she's saying. I mean, people need to have an open mind. Whatever she's going to share tonight, I have no idea. But I just want the listeners to know they should have an open mind, because I get this intuition that's saying that she's speaking from truth and understanding based on experience, not based on speculation and research on YouTube. Right. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes. Thank you.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for being here, Eric. And, so how much? Okay, we got a good 10 minutes. So now, before your initial abduction scenario, had you ever had a UFO sighting before that? Or was that the first encounter?
No, I had, partly being at the school, because I started, attending the Ramtha School about when I was age 13. And that was actually part of what we were learning in the school, was that, okay, yes, there are UFOs, aliens are real. They come from all these different places. Fairies are real, unicorns are real, Sasquatch is real, all of this. And so one of the things that we would do in the school, and this was actually, I guess, a little later too, is we would basically call them in, and we will learn different ways to be able to pierce through the veil, to raise our vibration, to see into higher dimensions.
So like a CE5 event?
Yeah, kind of. It was before Stephen Greer came up with that. It was kind of like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, but really, most of these higher dimensional beings, the way to communicate with them, the way to interact with them, is actually going within yourself. You have to get to those deeper levels of consciousness to really raise your vibration for that interaction.
Yeah.
there's so much more than just our third, fourth dimensional reality, and the beings that come here to Earth that are in that third, fourth, fifth dimensional reality. There's so many more beyond that.
Can I ask you, Lisa? Okay, this interesting. You say the word vibration, and I remember 5 years ago I was trying to understand what was going on, and this lady told me. She literally said to me in a tweet, you need to raise your vibration. You're not ready for this information. I was like, what the fuck is she talking about? But here's what I want to say about vibration is, in essence, when you talk about consciousness, it's actually a form of awareness. So if a person is willing to take the leap into opening their mind to the possibilities, until you take that leap, you cannot really effectively raise your vibration, because really raising your vibration is opening yourself up to the possibilities of other realities. Do you think that's accurate?
I do think that's accurate. And it doesn't have to be a very long, elaborate process once you become aware that there are other realities and other dimensions and densities. And so the more that it's like a practice, just like with a muscle, right? The more that you practice, the easier it gets. And so I can simply raise my vibration by just saying, okay, my vibration is now raised, and I'm now in a state of joy. I'm coming from a state of love. Those are the higher vibrations that we want to be in to actually interact with the higher dimensional beings.
And this is a choice. I believe it's a conscious choice that everybody has. I mean, people would get scared off by this word, raising your vibration. They don't understand it. But really what it is opening yourself up to the possibilities of other realities that are not being presented by CNN and Fox. And once you allow yourself to go into that thought pattern, you're literally raising your vibration in that moment. And then you're able to experience things that you probably didn't experience prior to having your consciousness kind of blocked out, in a sense.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what we spent years learning how to do as well at the Rampa School. Was really getting deeper into that consciousness, really awakening our minds to other realities, like you're talking about, Eric, and really getting in touch with ourselves, because really at the core of the universe, at the core of everything, we are all connected. We are all one. And I think the more that we realize that, then it's going to actually shift the way that people interact with each other. Because, you can judge your neighbor for their politics or their religion or their stance on medicine. But when you realize that they are really just a mirror of you and you really come from that same source, then we can have love and understanding and compassion for one another.
Beautifully said.
Biological evolution. I want to know, I know we only have a few minutes before we break, but maybe you can also explain the biological roots and connections to get to that place. I know you must have, as anyone must, you've got to go through and you've got to do the work, right? I hear that a lot, but it's true. You got to go do the work. You got to really experience to be able to even speak the way you're speaking. I mean, you exude, this sort of momentum. So I'm just wondering, when you started, I guess not when you started, but when did that really take shape, and how, biological evolution became something you were interested in?
So I was always obsessed with animals as a child, really obsessed. And the weirder the animal, the more I loved it. So my favorite mammal was a platypus, right? Because it's a conglomeration of things.
Very strange animal. Yeah.
Yes. And one of my spirit animals for sure. So I studied everything about animals that I could, and I wasn't afraid of things looking different. I was always about biodiversity, and I just love form and function. And so that ultimately led to me deciding at age 9 that I was actually going to go the route to be a scientist. And I wanted to study sharks because they were misunderstood. I wanted people to know how incredible they really are as animals. And so that's the path I get tunnel vision, and so I just went on that path until I completed it with a PhD, did the postdoc, got the tenure track job, and then I was like, okay, now it's time for a new path.
Lisa, are you a cat person or a dog person? I'm going to guess you're a cat person, but what are you?
I have both. I have both as pets, but I have always been more of a cat person.
I knew it.
Yes, so are me and Eric.
I love it.
JP,
I'm really
however,
liking Lisa, by the way. I'm liking her.
Definitely got some cat points there.
Yeah, we have 4 cats and 1 dog, so yeah.
All right, and so we got some questions from the audience. Perhaps we will kick back off with that when we come back. But for now, we do have to run to our second commercial break of the evening. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. Yes, and also joining us tonight is our roaming reporter, Eric Awakening Man, and tonight's guest is Dr. Lisa Thompson, and we'll be back here in just a few short commercially minutes. Don't go anywhere.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, thefringe.fm, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Tired of talking about the weather? No, Shift. Well, Shift Happens is here to fulfill your desires as you reach that point in life where you crave tantalizing conversation about reality, ufology, the occult, and the conspiracies within, while simultaneously finding yourself desperately in need of your very own theme music, which we've got plenty of that too. So be sure to tune in to Shift Happens every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Because the weather sucks, and you need some theme music.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is Ronnie LeBlanc, author of Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs, and you're listening to Shift Happens on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I am your host, GG, along with our co-host, JP.
Hey there, GG.
Yes, and we are here tonight with Dr. Lisa Thompson, and also hanging out tonight with us is our great roaming reporter, Eric, Awakening Man. Now, real quick before we get started, please help support the show in any way possible, not just financially, but also just by word of mouth, you know? Tell your friends, hey, check out this show, or check out the Fringe FM, and go on Twitter, like the tweets, retweet, all that good stuff. That stuff always helps. And if you really want to help, you can go over to buymeacoffee.com, and you can buy us a coffee. Yes, help keep the show going.
Last week.
Yeah, and there's never enough coffee. So, and plus, you know what? It was my birthday last Sunday. I forgot to mention that last week. So that would be the perfect birthday gift. Would be a coffee. So go to, God knows I need it. Go to buymeacoffee.com/shifthappens. You can buy me a coffee, you can buy JP a coffee, and it helps support the show. Absolutely. And then also a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Got Hemp Extracts. So the best CBD products in the world. They use the nanoparticulate process, which just about nobody uses, which means digestively you are absorbing it on a much, much, much more efficient level. Whether it's vape cartridges, pre-rolled CBD joints, canned coffee infused with CBD, they've got it all. Go to GotHempExtracts.com. Use the promo code ShiftHappens. That's right, and you'll save yourself 10% off of your order. All right, there we go. Got that out of the way. Now let's get back to the business here. So, Dr. Lisa, we do have a couple of questions from the chat room. Oh, wow, I'm going to have to scroll back a little bit. So here comes my good friend, The Rocker. Notice I didn't say his actual name that time. Coming from The Rocker in the Spreaker chat. He says, sometimes the problem is the talk so much about vibration lingo scares some people to death. It's like hippie talk to some. How can we change this perception?
Okay, so that's really good.
Like, you know what he means?
I mean, I get where he's going, and I guess my tribe, they don't have a problem with that. They're used to that word, so I guess I don't encounter many people that might get triggered by that word vibration. But the way that I can describe it in an analogy form is if you think of a fan. So a fan with some blades coming off of it, when it's turned off, you can see the very distinct individual blades of that fan. As soon as you turn the fan on and you make the speed go faster and faster and faster, the individual blades become blurry. They raise their vibration, they raise their frequency of rotation, and so they appear to become less dense, less physical to us. So that would be how I would describe raising our own vibration of, just imagining every cell of your body just by getting faster and faster and faster, increasing the frequency of that. That will lighten the body, and ultimately that will make it less dense. And that is how humans can do some really what's considered magical or miracle things like walk through walls, because we are a lot of empty space. We are not physical. And so we just have to become a little less dense to the physical reality with us. And I don't know if that describes his question enough or answers it enough, but just to give the audience a sense of what we mean by vibration, it is more of like how fast, what the frequency is of the cells of that body.
Right. And I mean, it's both on a literal sense, but also in a you just kind of know it sense. Missing the word for that right now. But so what do you think, kind of a side question here, what do you think, because when it comes to frequency, I mean, just look at somatic frequencies, right? where they do examples. They take a speaker, they put a board over it, and put a bunch of grains of rice on it, and at certain frequencies, they make certain patterns, and very elaborate, very geometrically symmetric and very complex patterns, which also just so happen to be some of the patterns that we see in the tile work of these ancient megalithic structures around the world that date back, like at Göbekli Tepe and places that we don't even know how old they are, we're talking tens of thousands of years ago. They knew these somatic frequency symbols, so they were obviously important to them. What do you think about the implication of manipulating frequencies to help achieve the building of some of these megalithic structures around the world? Like Lebanon, for example, or Machu Picchu or the pyramids, pick your poison. There are tales, especially in Tibet, of these, there's stories of them using what they called a trumpet, massive trumpets, but trumpets nonetheless, to resonate at a certain frequency. Of course, they're on top of these magnetic ley line intersections, which also comes into play, and they're able to use this sound technology, according to these accounts, to lift and raise the stones that we today couldn't figure out how to lift. Do you find merit in that, or is there another explanation? Like, do you buy into those some of those stories?
So I love this question, and I was able. So you mentioned at the beginning, one of the modalities that I do is past life regression, and instead of it being past lives, there's no past, there's no future at the quantum level. It's all parallel. So it's parallel life regression that I do. But I had it done on me a couple weeks ago because I wanted to get more information about my parallel life as a Syrian extraterrestrial that was involved in ancient Egypt, that we were part of the genetic engineering program to modify the human body so that it would be able to hold more energy. And so in that regression, if you've ever had a regression done, it is real. Like, these memories that are coming to you are very real. And so what I got to experience and observe is exactly what you're talking about. So the frequency to activate the DNA in the human body, to upgrade it, was a sound frequency that we shot out from our ship. But also there were other Syrians, again, from Sirius, the star, that were there at the same time we were with a different job, and they were helping the humans, the Egyptians, to actually build pyramids, and they used sound frequency levitation. And it actually wasn't a trumpet, it was a special toning and synchronized with their thought that was able to actually lift the stones into place very easily.
All right, so that certainly explains, and I might sound like I'm just asking these questions out of note. Like, this is the kind of stuff I'm into, So I'm right there with you. I know exactly what you're saying. So, but with that, so that explains the levitation and the placement, right? Potentially. What about some of the places, like in Peru or like Sacsayhuaman and places like that, where they have, it's almost like the stones are molded out of putty. And the corners. So are they able to do
like lasers and everything? Yeah,
laser precision molding of these stones. Do you think that the sound technology can also explain that, or is that perhaps a different technology?
My intuition tells me it's a different technology, but it's still a frequency. Everything is a frequency,
right?
And so, but I do feel like it is more of a laser, along those lines, technology for those crisp, sharp lines, rather than the sound levitation that would put things into place.
There's an interesting quote.
That's a good question. I can get that information at a later date, because I do channel a group of ETs that are very higher dimensional. So they give me information that I need.
Okay, well, we're going to get to that right now, but real quick, I do want to give a shout out to, well, speaking of shout outs, Sarah Ann Dordle over in the Springer Chat says, yes, Assyrian sister, shout out. So there you go. And, well, I guess I lost my, well, there's a good quote, it originates from the Bible, and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was of God. But you think about it, a word is a sound, and then a sound is a frequency, and then you start you mix in some string theory and quantum physics, and they could be talking about, like at the smallest of things that we have found in all of quantum physics and string theory and theoretical physics, and mathematically with theoretical physics as well, is these little strings that vibrate, frequency, and that's kind of seems to be most likely where it all started. And there's realms of technology, of sound, vibrational frequency technology that we have not really applied to our modern day civilizations, that perhaps it seems pretty evident that previous civilizations before the last ice age, the ones that got wiped out and there is just nothing left of them, because how could there be? It's been so long and it used to be covered in miles of ice that was all smushed, who knows how many different cycles of humans reaching technological advancement and then getting knocked out and starting over again, and having that whole process happen over and over again, like guys like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson talk about, for example. I think there's definitely a lost chapter of human ingenuity that is simply lost, that they figured out some stuff, whether it's help from aliens or whether they found an old text themselves from the generation before, what have you. We don't have all the pieces to our history, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But with that, let's get into, as a galactic ambassador and your channelings and your communications with them, who's your go-to, who's your direct contact, and how did you establish that, and what is their main reason? That sounds kind of not reason, but what's the connection there? Why have they picked you to communicate, and what is their message, and what do you guys talk about, and who are they, and how far away are they? I've got so many questions.
Okay, I know, I love it. So, it's the Arcturians, coming from Arcturus in the Boots constellation, and they are very high dimensional beings. I met them 4 years ago, and I was taking a psychic intuition class. The very first night of class, our teacher led us through a meditative journey to meet a spirit guide that would help us get extra psychic information if we needed it. Well, I had done journeys like this before. I have, normal kind of human spirit guides, animal spirit guides. But in this particular journey, I went to a completely different realm where in front of me were the most beautiful blue beings. And they had large bald heads, big eyes, really skinny bodies, just a beautiful blue skin. And they exuded the most intense love I have ever felt, like more than anything on earth that I've ever felt. And their message to me was, you are one of us, we are one of you, we are family. And they gave me a gift of a quartz crystal, and the name, it was a group of them, but the front person that was speaking to me telepathically, the name that he gave me to call him was Uluru, which does correspond with the Aboriginal name of Ayers Rock in Australia. So I knew what it was. I knew what Uluru is. And sometimes they will give us names that we are familiar with, even though we might question it. Because I have a friend who also channels Arcturians, but his name is Daniel. So very plain, normal American kind of name. So once I once I came out of this journey, we're going around class sharing. I'm describing these blue beings. I had no idea who they were at that time, because even though I had a lot of UFO and orb and other kinds of paranormal experiences throughout my life, I only knew about my group that I was taken by as a teenager, which I didn't even say where they were from earlier. So they live inside of Io, one of Jupiter's moons. So they had a colony inside of Io. And then I knew about the Greys.
So,
right?
real quick, Io, you mean like inside of, like as in underground?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear.
There are a lot of different groups that live inside planetary bodies.
It's a pretty smart move, avoid all that crap that happens on the surface, But now, but you were talking about the moon? Our moon, rather?
No, I was talking about Jupiter's moon of Io. That's where I was taken when I was 15. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think there are people inside of the moon and Venus and other star systems. But let me go back to the Arcturians real quick, because it's been an interesting journey. So when I came out of that journey, there was a gal in class who, when I described what they looked like, she said, that sounds like either the Arcturians or the blue avians. And I didn't know what those were at the time. So I went home and Googled, gotta love Google. And as soon as I saw the image of what the Arcturians are presented to look like, that's exactly what I saw in this journey. And I had never, again, consciously seen them. I was an interior designer at the time. I would see UFOs, but I wasn't into this really deep rabbit hole like I am now. And so over the last 4 years, though, I've had my spiritual business for 5 years, but the deeper that I've gone into my spiritual business and really just acknowledging that, okay, I am a starseed and I am an Arcturian starseed, but I know I've had many other lives, non-Earth lives. And so the more that I acknowledged that, started talking about it, writing about it, and then started the UFO tours, then they were really coming through me. And they kept being like, we want to talk through you. And so I let them channel through me through writing first. But in the last probably 3 months, they have been speaking through me. But I can just have regular conversations with them as well, without them channeling messages to myself or to my clients. And the main message that they have, so I do have a parallel life as an Arcturian, and that's ultimately, I was stepping in front of myself as that life. So I am Uluru.
As one does. Yeah.
And the crystal, so my job in that realm is as a healer, but not to heal the Arcturians, because they're such in a higher dimension, they don't get sick, they don't need healing. But that crystal sends healing energy down to me as Earth Lisa that heals my body, but then it also radiates out to aid in the healing of my clients and the people who come to me. And so because now I understand that life and that connection that I truly have with them, I don't fear it. Now, because I did grow up in this school where there was a channeled ascended master coming through, and people in our town thought this was absolutely crazy. All of our family members thought, we were crazy for listening to this kind of information from someone, that was maybe possessed. And so I had to get over that stigma just for myself of like calling myself a channeler, because it was so hard at times for me as a kid being in that reality, because I wanted to fit in, right? I just wanted to be a normal kid. But anyway, so since then, so they're my main connection, my main group. But I do know of other lives, like that Syrian life that I have, and I'm really delving into these different parts of myself to really understand who these different groups are. And so one of my favorite groups that I also work with are the mantis beings. And so they're bipedal mantis, and they're one of the most evolved like oldest groups, intelligent groups in our galaxy. And they are master healers and master geneticists. So I just, I'm bringing in more and more groups all the time that I'm working with.
Okay. Now, I do want to ask on a complete aside. I don't want to derail the conversation, so just a quick question, then we'll get right back. At that Ramtha school, and did they teach you guys anything about Mother Ayahuasca or proper psychedelic ceremonies and the beings that you encounter during such events, or was that completely not expressed at all?
Yeah, that's a really good question. At the time that I was I can't speak for what the school does now at all, because I left. I was 5 months pregnant with my daughter, so she's 16. So I left the school 16 years ago. So at that time, there was definitely no plant medicine going on, or that kind of plant medicine. Now, what the school was famous for were wine ceremonies, red wine ceremonies, because there was this thing of the wine will help you drop your veil and to reveal and heal whatever traumas you might be having. And so there were very specific ways that Ramtha would lead us through these wine ceremonies to really like get down deep to whatever the mess is inside of us that really wants to come out and be healed so that we can move on and evolve.
Right on. And yeah, the main reason I ask is the way you described the blue beings, the Arcturian blue beings, and specifically when you said they just had the most highest love frequency you could possibly imagine. Well, that sounds exactly like the blue beings that you meet in the ayahuasca /DMT realm. And I always called her the blue lady until I knew until I knew better. But anyway, that's why I asked. But anyway, let's.
Well, and there are other groups that have the blue coloring besides the Arcturians. So some of the Syrians present themselves as kind of a bluish color. Some of the Andromedans have a bluish tint to them. Some of the original Lyrans and Vegans have a bluish tint. So there are more than just that. But really, the Arcturians, they have a very similar energy to the angels, and they resonate at that Christ Buddha consciousness level. So they really are coming from a very high perspective. And their message really is, we are all one. Love is the universal language. Love is like the law of the universe. And
wait, is this the Arcturians saying this?
Yeah, the Arcturians.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's what they're speaking for me. And that right now, because there is so much going on Earth, so like it's just so much fear. And so what they're really, really trying to get across to me, but also to anyone that will listen to me, is that we all have the ability to choose the timeline that we want to exist in, because all timelines exist simultaneously. And all we have to do is hold our focus to what we actually do want and keep our attention away from what we do not want. So in a sense, that is a law of attraction. We're going to shift to the timeline where that is the reality, the more that we can hold that focus and hold it in our body energetically.
Yeah, and some people, unfortunately, some people have taken the law of attraction and ran and hopscotch with that into several other cults and ideas, but the initial principle of law of attraction is what we're talking about here. The one that makes sense. I think our audience can hang along with what we're talking about here. Now, well, all right. Let's go ahead and take our last break. We gotta do it. Somebody's got to pay somebody's bills. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. Eric, I think, got disconnected. I'm not sure if he's going to be back or not, but we are here tonight with Dr. Lisa Thompson. And we'll be back with more of your questions, and we might even open up the phone lines if you're lucky when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
paranormal experiences with ghosts, demons, shadow people, dogmen, Bigfoot, and more. Their stories need to be told, and they are being told. Dark Waters, a renowned storyteller, invites you to join at IamDarkWaters.com. For just a few dollars a month, you can listen to some of the most hair-raising and compelling stories on the planet. You'll have access to real-life stories told by Dark Waters, thousands of hours of content. Their encounters are being told, and told by the best, at IamDarkWaters.com. Listen to stories like The Rabbit Man, the Dogman encounter in Silas, Alabama, The Man with No Face, The Other Woman, A Day Ahead of the Devil, Dogman Murder in Hurricane Ida, even a story of someone trying to kill a dogman. Louisiana water demon stories. Sign up today and become a member at IamDarkWaters.com. That's IamDarkWaters.com.
Are we living in a simulation? Listen live each week as we expand our awareness and explore the multitude of mysteries in this world. Escape the simulation live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern with me, Jess Rogie, here on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting.
Musicians experience a lot of frustration with music marketing and promotion. They have no idea how to get their music heard, and they're spending hours sending emails, making phone calls, and hitting up their friends to promote them. With our industry-powered digital marketing platform, we can set up your media plan in minutes. Our team will automatically distribute your music across all the best channels, so you can focus on actually making the music. Submit your music today on our website at mymusicpromoter.com. That's mymusicpromoter.com.
Hey, this is Anthony Tyler, host of Black Hoodie Alchemy, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Listen as we explore the mysteries of the universe, the unknown, high strangeness, consciousness, and our human potential. Lighting the Void is an eclectic program that strives to ignite the late night with stimulating conversations. Join us on The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation.
gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. And we are here tonight with Dr. Lisa Thompson. Now, again, thanks for tuning in, folks. Little update tonight. I don't think Joe Roop is usually following Shift Happens. Joe Roop does Lighting the Void here on the Fringe FM. He's caught smack middle of the whole hurricane situation out there. So I do not believe he'll be live tonight, but rest assured, after that time slot, Jess Rogie will be live starting at 11 p.m. Pacific. So make sure to check her out. And again, JP and I will be on the Jess Rogie show next Thursday.
And she has officially asked me, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm.
Yeah. Yes, you're in. You're in. And that will be a very fun show indeed. Now, I'm very much looking forward to that. So real quick, before we dive back in to everything, I want to ask another aside question. In this, we're not going to expand on this, just so that I know where you're at. Have you had any personal, like, guided DMT or guided ayahuasca or even guided psilocybin rituals and sessions? Or maybe not guided, just personal experiences? And has that in any way strengthened or had any sort of effect on the connection that you already have as a Galactic ambassador?
So I have not had any guided plant medicine journeys to date, but it is something that I'm completely open to doing and looking for the right opportunity for that, because I want to be with a truly trusted guide, especially with the ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And my husband and I, we're going to Peru next year. We were supposed to go this year. And I have a very good friend that's a shaman down there that does lead those journeys. So I'm going to try to hook up with her when I'm down there, but otherwise I'm open to it. And I have had my own, I guess, unguided journey in college with the
Who hasn't? Yeah.
They grew on my college campus in Olympia, Washington.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I grew up in a similar situation. Yes.
Yeah. And I can say that having that mind-opening experience, I think it enhanced what I already had been experiencing, as a child. And I know that the more that I do in this realm, it's just getting like greater and greater consciousness and awareness.
Yes, fantastic. All right, so with that out of the way, like I said, I just wanted to know where you're at with that. So my good friend The Rocker, one of my favorite people in the world, we don't always agree on everything all the time, but he's the homie. He's my partner in crime at conferences. He's my guy, and he wants to know, so how should anyone believe a single word someone says today? I need more conclusive evidence. No talk, no hearsay, proof. Just need the level of common sense. Show me. And he's referring to, being a Galactic ambassador, having these connections, because there certainly is, and I totally understand where he's coming from, especially when it comes to seeing like UFOs. It's... I wouldn't believe it if I hadn't seen it either. But once you see something, or you have an experience or an encounter with something, like my encounter with Mother Ayahuasca, for example, that's like, you can tell me it's not real all you want, but I know it is, and there's no real way for me, in my opinion, there's no, like, if you've never been punched in the gut before, you can ask, like, is that true? And I can tell you, yeah, like, all I want. But even if you believe it's true, that's different than having the experience yourself. I know lots of people that believe in UFOs, but without having seen one, that belief can only go so far. You're still relying on uncertainty. But once you've seen one, that's when everything changes. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. There's nothing you can do to change my perspective. Just like saying, like, you never got punched in the gut. Like, oh, really? Because I did. And I'm trying to tell you. But for those who haven't been privy to, or, you know, these sort of experiences, you know, like he says, you know, what's some more ground level proof of some of this stuff that can be more relatable to those who have not had some of the types of Galactic ambassador like experiences that you've had?
So I do like that question, because even when we have people come on our tour, they're at all levels of belief in terms of if these UFOs are real that we're seeing. And my second ex-husband was a big skeptic in anything that he couldn't see, touch, feel himself. Like, he wanted that tangible proof. And he didn't understand how I, as a scientist, could be really open-minded and know that there were other things out there that existed. So we do have evidence, physical evidence, that these beings have been here, whether you want to believe in the crashes of Roswell and other places around the world, other places in New Mexico, the reverse engineering of craft that our government has done. There is evidence of that. There's been the slow disclosure of the gimbal, the Tic Tac, you know, those kinds of videos. More whistleblowers that are military and government are coming out and sharing the stories of the sightings. And so, at least for people who haven't seen it themselves, that's giving a little more credibility, I guess, to the field for those skeptics. They're maybe opening their minds like, oh, okay, well, the government is actually saying that they're real. And we have other governments like Peru. Peru's fully open. Mexico's fully open that these things exist, that they visit us. Now, as far as the experience, I totally agree with you. Like, if someone hasn't had a personal up-close encounter with beings, higher dimensional beings, or Mother Ayahuasca, or whatever it may be, then they can only believe what is filtered through their own paradigm, right? So for me, I always filter it through, is this true for me? And that's where I have to be. I'm not here to convince anyone. I'm just here to share that my experiences, share what their messages are, because they're here to help us move to that actual fifth dimensional reality that a lot of people in the New Age world talk about. Because we are shifting there. We are shifting our consciousness. And sometimes it gets really dark before things evolve and shift. And that's the time that we're in right now, the darkness. But on the other side of that, we will have light. And in that light, we will have interaction. They want us to be part of the galactic family. They want us to know about them, that we have free will here on Earth. And so the people who have experiences like I have had, it's because we are asking for that. We are connecting with them. And so if someone does want to have an experience, simply ask. That's all. That's really what it takes. And I lead people through meditative journeys where I can help connect them to their galactic family and guides, because everyone has that. We're not all just Earth. We are so much more than that.
And so with that, I'm going to mishmash about 3 or 4 different questions from the chat room into one, because it goes along with mine. Especially the Arcturians or any beings that feel the need to contact someone like you to download a message to spread to the rest of your companions. Now, this might sound like maybe it just looks like this from our human perspective, but it seems like human beings on planet Earth seem to be the star of the show. we're the center of attention, and all these beings are coming here to either help or misguide in some people's cases, who knows.
Right.
Why are we so important to these races to the point where they're however you think they're getting here, whether it's just through conscious quantum entanglement connection, or they're actually physically coming here in craft, which seems to be more and more of a possibility with all the Pentagon and Navy videos. I mean, there's something out there zipping around doing some things that we can't do. But regardless, whatever their means of coming here, why the invested interest in us? What is so important about us that they need to do these things? Or, like I said, is that just how it seems from our minuscule human perception, and there's a lot of bigger fish to fry? We're just one of the fish.
We are one of the fish, but we are quite important to them because we are their family. We have up to 22 different alien races in our DNA. And throughout our human evolution, we have different missing links. And really, the missing links are the shifts in the body's physiology and anatomy that allowed some major advances in human evolution. And what I do understand is that is when we had different intervention in this genetic experiment of the human form. So we've had different groups come throughout our history on Earth to splice in their DNA, to modify it, to do all of these different experiments. And so they have investment in us. And some of them are here to actually protect us from ourselves. They do not want us going into nuclear war and destroying the planet like, the civilization of Atlantis. Their technology was way beyond their spirituality, and that's what destroyed them. And so we are on the verge of that happening again, and they want to prevent it. There are some people that are part of the hybrid program. I love the hybrid program, and I have friends that are in this hybrid program. So that's another reason why some of these groups are coming, is to they all have different reasons, but really a lot of them are here looking over us because they're family.
Okay, and so to your awareness, are there any of these beings that are the opposite, that don't want us to thrive, that are trying to thwart us in some way? Or is that just a separate group of humans that got some shift scrambled?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense of a question.
Okay, yes. So, how I will describe this is when we are in third, fourth dimensional reality, like we're in third density vibration frequency as humans. We have polarity. We experience things as good, bad, positive, negative. Anything at fifth dimensional level and above no longer has that polarity. So some of the beings that are coming here are still polarized, just like we Earth humans are. And when they're polarized, some of the individuals, just like humans, are coming from a place of love, compassion, non-judgment, unity, harmony, service to others. And some of the humans and some of these individuals of these races are service to self. They're about control, power, keeping people in fear. And there are some groups that some of the, we'll call them the negative polarized beings. Yes, I do believe that they are interacting here on Earth. However, the benevolent service to others groups far outnumber the ones that are still polarized. And so they are having a role in keeping them away from our awakening, our evolution as a planet, where we're shifting to right now.
And they're probably keeping us that same fashion away from certain other places, because we're not quite there yet either.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah, they're waiting for us to have this massive spiritual awakening as a collective so that we can be a part of the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, because we're so close in one sense, but at the same time, we're still chimps with nuclear weapons. You know,
yes.
We gotta fix that. You know,
right.
And I mean, God knows how many nukes Russia and America tried to launch to the moon at one point that kept getting knocked off on the way there for some reason.
Yep. And
think what you will about
that's
that.
part of them trying to save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
There have been so many stories around nuclear power plants, nuclear missile plants, where they've shut down the nuclear missiles and the plants.
Yeah, and it's not just that they shut them down. They shut them down in a way that could not be reconfigured. Like,
right.
even once they reconfigured them back, they still didn't work. And, and then you've got stories like, you know, the pilots off the Nimitz and them knowing their cap point before they did. I mean, they, you know, sometimes I think they're just having some fun, you know.
I do too. Well, and you know, part of the mission as the Galactic Ambassador that I now am is I really want to change that fear-based messaging that's out there so pervasive in the media, the government, and Hollywood, because really they are our family and they love us. We are part of them, and they really want people to understand that, so that when the messaging coming through TV, like there are a few really, I'm gonna judge them as horrible because the messaging is so fear-based about these different ET groups, including like the Arcturians and the Pleiadians and the Syrians. And they're just painting them with such a negative picture without any kind of like evidence, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it's only, maybe not only, but in some cases it's natural to fear the unknown. You know. And
yes, most humans do fear the unknown, and so it's up to us to work through our shadows, because there's nothing outside of us that isn't ourself, actually.
Right.
And even the polarized ones, even the ones that are coming to like maybe hold us back in fear and are interfering that way, what I've really come to understand, you know, as an evolutionary biologist, but also as a spiritual being, energy being, is that actually helps us evolve. That helps us learn and grow and be like, okay, no, it allows us to take our power back, our control back, and grow even stronger.
All right. And speaking of which, my good friend, the Rocker, he has two questions here. I'll go with his latest one first. Okay. He asks, is it possible that aliens are actually controlling Earth?
I don't think that they are, but that's my immediate like intuitive hit is no, they are not controlling it. They're actually they have some influence, but they have more influence on the individuals that they're coming through than on a mass collective, I believe. Except for, well, there are the ones that are influencing, we'll say, the news, the media, right? Creating that fear-based messaging.
I think there are some pretty, I don't know. I don't want to say they're like, I don't know, strong humans, highly intelligent humans. I don't know. It seems that the people who are truly pulling like the strings in this world for some pretty awful, heinous things, like creating reasons for people to go to war or something where there is a tremendous kind of like sort of, you know, people don't want to take that burden on in life, like, you know, taking another person's life, for example, or being even the one to okay that somebody else, like, to me, it seems like there almost has to be something that's almost extra normal, at very least, who ultimately makes decisions. And I'm wondering if you ever kind of thought along those lines as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different rabbit holes you can go down with this, and even like at the Rampa School, there were a lot of conspiracy theories that we heard about or learned about that ultimately each individual person is in control of their own reality. And so whatever timeline you want to be in, just focus on that timeline so that you can get away from that control, because we do ultimately have free will here. We are in control of ourselves. And the more, again, that we come from a state of joy, a state of love, and that's how we go through life living, then we're going to create that in our life. We're going to pull people into our lives that are in that higher state of being. We're going to pull higher dimensional beings into our life in that higher state of being. And anything that isn't resonating with that frequency falls away. So.
All right.
And that's true. A lot of the game is mental in that way, for
Yeah.
sure, I think.
Indeed. Now, we've only got a few minutes left. We can go a couple minutes over since I don't think Joe's doing his show tonight. God bless Joe. Send your prayers out to Joe. Make sure he's at least floating on a raft or something. I'm sure he's fine. He's a man's man. He's probably already hunted 3 elk.
Be well, Joe.
He's already eating elk steak. Again, my friend the Rocker asks, and I understand the question, so his question is, why do these entities seem to come at night in the darkness when it comes to connecting with people? Now, with that said, I must say, a couple of my most profound experiences were right in the middle of the day. But he makes a good point, because most of the times you hear people being abducted or having some sort of communication, or having a download experience, whatever, seems to be around either time of sleep or time of darkness. Is there what's the reason for that?
Yeah.
Or is that just our perception?
No, it is more common that we have experiences when we're in some sort of dream state. So when we're in alpha brainwave state, that's daydream state, and we are already in a higher vibration in that state in our consciousness. And so we can have experiences. When we move to theta just before sleep, that's where a lot of experiences happen. And then when we're in delta, in deep sleep, they can interact with us more in those different states. Most of them, again, are higher dimensional. And so if they were to land right in front of us in the middle of the day or even at night, our body can't handle some of that energy, and we naturally go into a trance state. We go into a theta or delta state, which is why, or the paralysis that people explain. And you mentioned the word abduction. So I like to reframe that as it's temporary detainment, because everyone is always returned. And when people understand that experience, even if they have a fear response of that, when they understand it from a higher perspective through regression, like deep regression, then they understand how they signed up for that and what the purpose of it was as well. But yeah, when we are in sleep state of some sort, it's easier for them to connect with us, and vice versa.
Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, just kind of in the same way, if you're driving on the 10 going western in the middle of New Mexico, it's kind of harder for that radio signal to get to you, but there's certain parts, where you get a better connection, and when it comes to stuff like this, especially this kind of information, you want to make sure the channels are clear, or the antenna has a clear signal before you start the download process, if that makes any sense, is my take of it. Now, unfortunately, we are quite right out of time, believe it or not. So we didn't even get to open up the phone lines or anything. So, but real quick, let's go ahead and remind everybody where they can keep up with you and your work and book sessions with you and everything else.
Okay, so the easiest way to find my website, I've got 2 different URLs that lead to the same place, but mysticmanta.com Manta as in manta ray, not mantra. So mysticmanta.com, or you can go to drlisajthompson.com. So all of my services are there. My books are available. My newest book is Connection to the Cosmos, Remembering Your Galactic Heritage and Embracing Your Oneness. And so that just came out a few weeks ago. You can get that on Amazon or on my website. And then I am quite active on Facebook. I know your Twitter people probably aren't as much on Facebook, but I'm on Facebook and I am on Instagram as well.
All right, fantastic. And for those of you just listening and are used to us and our stuff, just go to shifthappensradio.com, go to the guest info section. As always, our guest info is all there. The links are there. One-stop shop. Get there while you can. Well, listen, Lisa, we're going to have you back on again. Probably several more times, in fact. So
I love that. I have so much more to share. You can ask all the questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's definitely do this again. And just thank you very much for coming on and for dealing with the rescheduling issues and everything like that. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for everyone listening, thank you. And again, filter it through. Is it true for me?
Yeah, as always. And
thank you for sharing.
Yes,
awesome.
Indeed. And if you want to hang out for a couple minutes after the show, you're more than welcome privately. But if you got to bounce, that's all good too. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. We got to boogie on out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, this show has been Shift Happens here on the Fringe FM. This show is hosted and produced by yours truly, Gigi. You can follow me at GGRabbit1 on Twitter or over on our main page, the Shift Happens Twitter, at Shift Happens Pod. The associate producer is Brad Harris. You can follow him on Twitter at ADSBradHarris. JP, our co-host, where can they find you, my friend?
Thanks for having me. Go to propertyofmars.com. It should be up soon. All right, I'm out.
There you go. And thanks to Eric Awakening Man, our roaming reporter, for tuning in earlier. Joe Roop is taking the night off, ladies and gentlemen, but coming after that at 11 p.m. Pacific is the Jess Hiroki Show right here on the Fringe FM. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks, and we'll be back next week with Duke Sullivan for some Bigfoot action. That's right. All right, wave bye-bye, folks.